You are welcome to this very interesting session on the topic Unlocking Climate Smart Digital Trade and Farm Carbon Credit Facilitation in Africa. My names are Kenneth Izomo. I'm the co-founder and CEO of the African Digital Leadership Innovation Network. And I would like to quickly introduce our esteemed speakers who will be providing us with more deep insights on this interesting topic. I'll start with Mr. Sant Mbakalu, who is the founder of International Trade and Research Center in Nigeria. Also joining us is Omobola Adekola. She is the partner and head African Trade Practice Group, Deal HQ Partners, based in Nigeria. You are welcome. And also joining us from Cameroon is Prince Justin Ajinga Tanyi, the executive chairman of Union Farms of Africa, based in Cameroon. You are welcome. And also with us is Dr. Renuka Takore, the founder of Global Sustainable Futures Network, GSFN. Dr. Takora leads the 20 million farmers initiatives, Farm Carbon Africa. And with me also, Ms. Angie Abdelwahab. She is the founder of Unica Research based in Cairo. You are welcome. And now quickly, because we are at a very critical moment now in Africa, that we have to take actions in respect of fine-tuning the digital space in Africa as it relates to trade. So as at this moment, we have assembled esteemed speakers that will be enlightening us with different strategies on how to reinforce and facilitate trade in Africa. So this very session will be exploring several strategies, several ways in how we can fine-tune the intra-African trade, leveraging digital solutions, eco-innovation perspective and awareness, and at the same time, helping to collaboratively create a sustainable roadmap for Africa. In this context, we would like to reference as well the African Continental Free Trade Agreement initiatives ongoing in Africa in order to also reinforce strengthening the integration of trade in Africa. And digital plays a very critical role in fine-tuning such approaches. And at the same time, you agree with me that today we'll be exploring these different approaches and giving us more insights on how to navigate Africa in the right direction. So welcome on board with me and join us in these brainstorming sections, and at the same time, the critical experience which we'll be leveraging on from the various speakers that will be joining us with several different topics that they will be addressing. We, the African Digital Leadership Innovation Network, is a platform, an ecosystem that helps in facilitating ecosystem collaborations in Africa in multi-sectoral approaches. It's a community of think tank experts coming together. And of course, with us today, is joining me on board is Evans Edebo, who is the CEO and founder of Trade for Development in Africa. So he's going to be our moderator. And Evans Edebo, please, over to you. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, sir. That is the co-founder and the president of the African Digital Leadership Innovation Network, ADNF. Thank you for the session, for setting the tone for the day, offering a high-level overview of the theme, the policy landscape of AfCFTA, and the urgent call to align climate-smart digital trade with Africa's sustainable goals. So we appreciate you, sir, for setting the tone for today's webinar. All right, we're moving straight to the first panel discussion, and I have here with me Omobola Barrister Omobola Adekola. Hi, Omobola.
Oh,
hello.
Good morning, Evans, and good morning to everyone on the call. It's a pleasure to join you here today. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's absolutely an honor to have you join us in this webinar as one of our esteemed panelists. Could you please tell us a little bit more about yourself? What do you do?
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Good morning. So my name, Evans already introduced me. So currently I'm a partner, and I head the Africa Trade Practice Group of DLHQ Partners. That's a Pan-African transactions law firm based in Nigeria. So we help businesses that want to enter and expand their operations across Africa. So I'm also the founder and the host of the Trading Without Borders podcast. That's the podcast that has been being a platform that is dedicated to basically sharing insights about the AfCFTA, basically how to unlock and leverage the opportunities presented by the AfCFTA. And I'm very passionate about unlocking the vast potential of African markets. I've got some close to 2 decades of experience in corporate and commercial transactions, specializing in international trade and inter-African trade as well. So I'll just stop here for a bit, except if Evans, you want me to say, okay, and maybe I'll just say, and I also hold a postgraduate degree in international trade and commercial law from Durham University, Durham in the United Kingdom. Thank you very much. So part of what I do, intra-Africa trade advisory, regulatory compliance, market strategies, and diaspora investment advisory, and also I facilitate trade trainings. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that very robust introduction about what about you and what you do, and the numerous initiatives, programs, and intervention regarding AfCFTA. All right, so this section, we're going to be looking at challenges, trend, and innovation, and the role of AfCFTA. I just have 3 areas that I would like you to address. Number 1 is, please, if you have questions, areas that you would like Omobola to also touch, you could please share on the chat. Regarding the AfCFTA Digital Trade Protocol, how does it support innovation in agriculture and climate smart sectors in Africa? The protocol on digital trade, the AfCFTA protocol on digital trade, what do you think about it in terms of supporting agriculture? Basically, let's even say agriculture and the climate smart sectors in Africa. Yes, please. I think you're muted. I think he's muted.
Okay, sorry about this. Thank you very much for that question. I think the important thing is just to give a brief overview of what the protocol aims to establish. Really, that it's just to provide rules that harmonized rules that enables and support digital trade across the continent. And of course, in doing that, is made provision. There are objectives in terms of removing barriers to digital trade and providing a framework as well. And in the process of that, the protocol has adequate provisions in terms of market access provisions. We have facilitating trade. It also has provisions for emerging technologies, as well as data governance of data. So what the digital trade protocol in terms of agriculture is basically stating is giving the opportunities for states to come up with rules of, let me say, should have say harmonized or complementary rules, or rules that are simplified in terms of coming up with innovation that can support digital trade. And looking at it in terms of agriculture, if you have provisions on emerging technologies, develop robust framework for emerging technologies, what do you do concerning agriculture? I think before we start going into what you do in terms of agriculture, we have to look at, I was going to say, we need to address the issues around digital trade. Are we just going to go, yes, we can innovate, create opportunities for people to be able to trade, to deal in agriculture within that space and all of that. But at the same time, there are issues that must be addressed in terms of connectivity, in terms of digital infrastructure. If I say digital infrastructure, and as well. So if we have the infrastructure that enables people to be able to trade digitally, to get involved, to do to come up with innovation within that space, then I think we will be able. Should I say we can. We will support the youth, or we support agriculturalists, people trading within that space. But without that, because we have issues of connectivity, especially in the rural areas. And if we do not address all of that in terms of policies, there need to be policies, not have policies that will enable people to be able to trade digitally, then it might sort of restrict or limit innovation within that space. If I'm sorry, I hope you can hear me. My internet connection seems to be unstable.
Absolutely, I can hear you very well.
So basically, it's about how do you harness technology and innovation to yes, to promote digital trade within the agricultural space. If I'm clear about your question, you're asking about agriculture and climate change, right? So for agriculture, what are the issues that are there? For instance, I'm going to just take us back to the Nigeria commodities. If you look at the new updated SEC rules, there are opportunities there for commodities exchange, where you can put exchange that farmers can easily introduce their crops or their products and services, and more like advertising it for a wider community. So if you have exchanges like that, that's an innovation. Where can you put your product, and you get customers from all over Africa that can be able to patronize you. But at the same time, before they can do that, there are also challenges as well that we may need to address for you to be able to make, maybe in terms of making payments, in terms of getting those farmers. But farmers might not be educated to get on those platforms, but where you have innovators that they can work with, and they help them in putting their products on those exchange platforms, and they can easily sell their products. But of course, in terms of addressing issues, in terms of making payments, but I'll just stop here for now, and maybe we'll come up, we'll discuss more on this. So commodities exchanges are opportunities for us addressing regulatory issues and compliance issues in terms of that, come up with innovation and emerging tech.
Thank you very much. I think you said a whole lot. There's a lot of insight. There's a whole lot you've talked about. You talked about, of course, yeah, as much as there's room for emerging technology, room for innovation, you know, to drive these, then you also talked about major issues that we need to address first. And then you also touched about opportunities where we can also leverage in order to make these happen. I think you've basically covered the next question that I was actually going to ask. The next question I was going to ask is the major digital infrastructure gaps hindering rural farming. I think you mentioned the issue of internet connectivity.
Okay, if I may speak to that, digital internet. We have in Africa really, we are digital internet connectivity issues for some part of the this unique report on Africa. If you have some part of African countries, like the more developed ones, we have majority of people that are connected to the internet, and we have some, and just like less than 10 or 11%. We have somewhere like Morocco that they are connected. We have 90% are connected. Then in terms of that, if we want to do cross-border trade in terms of it, we need to get more of Africa connected to the internet. But of course, there are issues in terms of that. Why is it that we have poor connectivity? But it's improved anyway. I would say it's improved anyway. But why do we have low connectivity? It could say, yes, maybe in terms of our fixed broadband and mobile broadband, we have more of Africans connected to mobile broadband, because fixed broadband, we have issues in case of affordability, and it's a space that you don't have so much competition. So, and I think we should have policies that would encourage competition, and we should also support SMEs that may want to play in that space by maybe governments offering subsidized rate. Then we're able to get more people connected to the internet through that means. And so we have more players, then people can also go to the rural spaces. But at the same time, I read about a community, it's called Mankosi community, that it was an innovation that was used to connect them to the internet, because of course, because you couldn't get the mobile broadband because of infrastructure issues. But using a fiber network, such as it was a solar powered wireless network that was used in the community to connect them to the internet. So we are looking at opportunities like that, like you can get to support SMEs, that they may be able to provide such services or products within that space. So that's what I'll just say. So if we have policies that encourage competition, that encourage more people to get within the space, and of course, in terms of affordability, maybe we look at it back end, maybe the government should also provide some sort of subsidized cost for the product or services used in internet infrastructure. Then we can get that then cascades down to the end users. But if they have to also pay in terms of high cost of entry, they are paying so much in terms of high cost of entry, then obviously that's going to cascade down to the last end, maybe the end user. The companies also want to make profit. So at the end, we need to address digital connectivity, internet connectivity, get more Africans on the internet. When we have more people on the internet, then we can easily get on digital trade, get more people to trade digitally in Africa. But of course, there are also other issues that are also connected with that in terms of regulation, in terms of training, digital training, but I'll just...
Thank you very much. I think, to be very honest, this is getting absolutely very interesting because of the number of issues and how you've touched on a number of issues because of the kind of coverage you're providing for these for the session. We just have like 4 minutes to go, and then here, yes, I'm on the very last question. Yes, I think recently the federal government talked about deploying a fiber optic across Nigeria University. Probably this, okay, for research, these are graduates, these are really not entrepreneurs, like people actively, right, in terms of trade. They are not, okay, maybe they are doing a service, trade, knowledge, export, and all of that. Yeah, that's good. Then talking about SMEs, inclusion, if we're going to bring SMEs, businesses who are actively in the mainstream trade, I think the idea of agri-tech might come into play. What do you think about public-private partnership in fostering initiative or tech ecosystem, for instance, maybe like agri-tech hub, stuff like that, okay, to intentionally bring in, women inclusion, youth inclusion, SMEs, to bring them into the mainstream tech ecosystem innovation as part of efforts for them to be part of the digital trade.
Okay, thank you for that question. Public-private partnership is very key. I'm not sure one sector is able to pull it through, should I say, successfully without the other, really. If we want to get, you said, student or SMEs into that, we need some form of capacity building, and it's going to come from public-private partnerships as well. If you say capacity building, and the government also, that they are going to the knowledge exchange, that's working together, because really we shouldn't just, I'm not sure we're focusing on maybe just the domestic view. We are looking at continentally knowledge exchange and working as well with institutions, maybe development institutions, finance institutions, and private sector in terms of even building the capacity of people to be able to come up with solutions in terms of agri-tech. So when we have hubs and we have trainings that are held for them, it's that's very key. But at the same time, the government, so I think, for instance, the AfCFTA investment protocol also provide incentives in terms of for training institutions as a way of also encouraging investment within that space. So there are some sort of incentives that are available. And if you're looking at agriculture, digital, we're looking at sustainable innovation that promotes sustainable agricultural practices. And where we have incentives for institutions that come in to build capacity for maybe the youths and the women, I think that's a very good one. That's going to help, because everyone say, oh, we have one of the advantages we have in Africa is our youth population, but at the same time, they need to be trained. There's the need for capacity building as well. And the AfCFTA Women and Youth Protocol also seeks to help to provide support. It's an opportunity to provide a framework for state parties to support women and youth to get into the trade space. And when we also have financing for them, we should provide them maybe in terms of concessional loans, those loans that the interest rate is not, also blended financing as well, providing concessional loans, the interest rate is not as much as the usual rate that you pay. Also, of course, providing grants, working with all the private and so investors that can provide grants, as of course invest in some of this digitech solutions by the youth. Those are opportunities, but at the same time, if we want to attract all of those investments, we must have the enabling environment, and that's part of what the FCFT investment protocol also to do, streamlining investment processes, entry processes for businesses that want to come in to invest. So they want to be sure that if I'm investing, then my investment, I must sure that I must get return on my investments. What are the opportunities and what are the benefits for me? So we are looking at it in terms of that, to get support for you, but at the same time, the government is also providing incentives that can gear the private sector to work alongside the government's agencies or the policy makers in terms of achieving what they need to achieve success and implementation. Thank you.
I think with this, we've come to end of the session. That is our first panel session. And then we must appreciate Barrister Mombolar for her time and for the comprehensive and very detailed and elaborate overview and insight that she has provided for us regarding this area, talking about the challenges, talking about the trend, talking about the prospect, the opportunities in the digital innovation and within the AfCFTA. All right, thank you very much, Omobala, for this wonderful session. I don't know if there's anybody you have question for Mobala on the chat. I'm just trying to see if there's any question on the chat. Okay, no, there's no question on the chat. All right, so thank you so much. So I think with this, we move to a second panel discussion, and then our panelists, NG Abdel Wahab. Hi, NG.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. And you?
I'm good, I'm great. I'm glad that we're together here in this lovely webinar.
Absolutely. Yes, great. We have NG on the call. In this next session, we're going to be focusing on cross-border ecotourism and or probably climate financing prospect. I think this ecotourism is actually one area everybody wants to learn about, and good we're having NG today on this call to assist us to address, okay, what we need to know regarding ecotourism. But before then, would want to meet you, NG. Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself and then what you do and the kind of work that you do?
Yeah, sure. So I'm the founder of Unica Research. We are the first market research agency that serves startups and small and medium enterprises. We do that through 3 services: direct market research provision, which is like when a startup wants or an SME wants to do market research, either with the objective of entering a new market or validating a product or expanding in a new business, new segment, new country, and they need to know the proper market assessment for that. We do it for them. And the other service is market research training. We do that through partnering with incubators and accelerators, where we teach startups what's meant by the different research studies, when each one is needed, the different methodologies for conducting them, powered, of course, by practical case studies. And the last service is one-to-one mentorship. This is when a startup is on limited budget, and they come and tell me, okay, we have the manpower, we can do the research, but we don't have the technical know-how, and we are in a very limited budget. So instead of not doing it at all, they do it, and we are with them, guiding them, mentoring them to make sure that they are doing it technically correct. And other than that, I have 10 years of experience in the field of research, consulting, 5 years of experience in strategic foresight. And I've worked on micro and macroeconomic stuff, either like developing macroeconomic strategies for the country, like 2030 sustainable strategy for Egypt, experts strategy for tomato concentrate industry in Egypt. And I also have another hat. I also work for UNDP Accelerator Labs. That's like the R&D unit for UNDP, where we hack sustainable development challenges using innovative methodologies like foresight, collective intelligence systems thinking, and so on. And tourism has been part of the portfolios I've worked on to like establish a sustainable tourism portfolio for Egypt and explore innovative investment channels for tourism. From them was ecotourism, agritourism, that like we'll be discussing today. Yeah.
This is amazing. It becomes very more it's now even more interesting when you bring these, relate this to AfCFTA, especially your programs and interventions in market research. We're looking at a single market of 1.4 billion people, valued at 3.4 trillion USD across 54 African countries. And more than that, you're looking at over 5,516 product class tariff line. So you have a lot of products and you have the market, but then you need to do the research because international trade is intensive, it's capital intensive. So you don't want to get your resources burned. So,
Yeah,
so it's good that
that's so
you
true.
do. All right, thank you very much for that insight into what you do. All right, yes, we're looking at cross-country ecotourism and, of course, ecotourism trade impact and prospect. So we just have three areas that we're going to look at in this panel discussion. So number one, we're looking at digital platform and trade integration. How can digital platform and trade integrate help reposition ecotourism as a climate resilient value chain under AfCFTA?
Okay, so let me first start by explaining the value or the opportunity that is there in ecotourism.
Great.
So, ecotourism actually is a very strong emerging signal of change in the tourism sector. And if you look at like statistics of tourists, like the majority of traveling tourists from youth, and youth especially when we're speaking of, they travel more. And if you like look at the African continent, like they present the majority also of population, and youth tourism in general are more into rural tourism and exploring what's there about, you know, the hidden gems of countries, not just the famous stuff. And ecotourism has become a strong signal of change when we trace their behavior. So things when they are marketed for as something that they can enjoy the nature more, they can be clean to environment, they are not going to waste it. You know, things that are related to observing, for example, a scarce type of birds or migration of animals or any of this. Living in a hotel that is ecolodge and still has the touch of the cultural spirit of the place. This is becoming very attractive for tourists. And when we're speaking about Africa, Africa has a strong like value in this, especially that the African continent still has and still keeping its heritage. So the habits, the culture, how we're dressed, the food and the things about them, like Africa still has strong heritage in that. And we can play or make more about ecotourism by having both angles, keeping the culture and the heritage of the continent and link it to environmental sustainability. Whether we're talking about designing of the buildings that are offered to tourists, or design of the activities that are like part of the tourism.
I'll present on that.
So and here, if we get to your question, like how digital platforms can play a role in that. So digital platforms can help make the needed marketing for all of this, and create the incentive also for local communities to adopt that. Because rural tourism does not just include the tour operators and tour agencies, but it provides a chance for local communities to, you know, uncover new sources of income for them. Because if they are like start, for example, use their own homes, they start use their own lands, and make them part of this ecotourism journey. You're creating new sources of income, and then if they are making money out of this, this is going to be the incentive for them to change their behavior and adopt more environmental standards. So it's your key also for obtaining sustainability. And digital platforms can create the needed marketing for that. So if you go to an African country, and you know, you have your platform that is like a one-stop shop for all the ecotourism activities that are there, the local communities are more incentivized. It like shortcuts the way, it creates the needed marketing for that. So it can pave a lot of the usual obstacles if you're talking about a new type of tourism, and that the community is not so, you know, aware and not so incentivized because they don't know the value of it. So the platform can shortcut this gap. And actually, recently I was working with some places or governorates in Egypt, in Upper Egypt, that the concept there is still also emerging. And there were a lot of startups that had wonderful ideas about ecotourism. And a big challenge for them was being seen, was having a platform, designing digital tools, creating the needed networking, making sure that they are seen by the different ecosystem players as well as the tourist. So platform can, you know, create all of these shortcuts and hinder those obstacles.
Oh my goodness, this is mind-blowing. Thank you so much by first helping us to understand the value chain in ecotourism, and also the need for why we should embrace it as one of the next development frontiers, especially in Africa here, where we still have a lot of these nature around us, and why we should, you know, connect them to sustainability practices and how we can actually, monetize, commercialize it, and the role of our digital platform in driving this. Thank you very much. And then this takes us to the next area we want to look at. We want to look at barriers. We're looking at barriers to cross-border ecotourism trade. We've established the huge opportunity and the value chain in this sector. But now I want to look at barrier and how can regional harmonization overcome this?
Well, a lot of barriers, unfortunately, still exist. One barrier is the policies about this. So, you know, to obtain your license and become an operating business, especially that when we're talking about ecotourism, the best people who can, you know, have a lot to offer in that would be startups, would be local communities, and you have also the big tour companies, so who are like taking a big market share. So making sure that like, you know, because this was also one of the challenges I have seen when like we were making this analysis for startups in this field in Upper Egypt. So making the proper linkage with that, making sure that they are aware of the needed regulations of legal setup, and how the Ministry of Tourism in each country can play a significant role in that. That's this linkage, because currently there is policy gap, and this linkage and this policy setup needs to happen. Also, the policies are a bit too bureaucratic. So, they need also to absorb the mindset of entrepreneurship. If we're talking about entrepreneurs and you're talking about policies that suit big companies, there is a gap. So those two people need to be talking more together, and policies need to be adopted more to absorb entrepreneurship more in this field if you want to have more initiatives on this. Also, since we're talking about having this cross-African, so another layer of policies problems that would come, which is the concept of trade and regulations among these. You need to have like some kind of harmony in regulations when things can, when cross-trade can happen. They need to know if there are certain monetization like barriers or something they need to be aware of. They need to have the proper capacity building for it, especially if there are, there are products that could be resulted from this. If we have an example for that, if you, let's say that you have one entrepreneurial business that talks about ecotourism, and it starts with a hospitality place, and then you have some products with it, like handicraft products, for example, or food products that could be sold from this, and then it takes you to another level of policies, like the hygiene, the level of marketing, the level of environmental packaging, how this could suit the behavior of those you're trading to. So, all of this capacity building needs to happen, and all of this policy harmonization needs to happen too. Yeah, what else? What else you want to ask about the
Thank you
barriers?
so much. Yes, I think this will be the last one. This is very interesting. This next question and the last one. I don't know if you've had any of experience. I don't know if you have personally had a personal experience regarding this scenario. Yes, I really quite agree regarding policy has to be in place. We have to harmonize policies and all of that. But okay, now there's cultural norms, there's cultural practices regarding this ecotourist side. Okay.
Of course.
The government or policymakers, they've made these policies and it looks very good, very beautiful. Now it's open for trade. And the local people, the villages, they are telling you, you know what? Women are not allowed here. You're trying to open it up for tourism, ecotourism, and they are telling you, based on our custom, and these are very important, very attractive ecotourist site, like it hasn't been tampered with. So it's still exactly the way it has been. So a lot of potential. How do you think we can overcome very unique barriers like this?
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right, and I've seen it. I've seen it a lot, especially in conservative areas. I believe the key for that is to have community capacity building, to change the awareness and create like a network of success stories, like for local women who managed to do that, and how this brought a lot of goodness for the whole family. So there was one example I've seen, and it was inspiring for all the rural women in that area. That area, like it's very conservative, and women are not like normalized in terms of like working, especially in this type of, because that like creates a kind of you get into the people's lives more. So there was one woman from all of the entrepreneurs, like she had a supportive husband about this, and she was talking about this, and it was inspiring for the whole room, like how this turned into something better for the whole family and all of this. So I believe having community awareness to change, not just for the women to be part of the jobs, but also for their families just to be supportive, as well as creating this network of success stories and how their households were part of this. So it can create a lot of awareness. And also one thing, rural communities in general, whether we're talking about Egypt or any other African country, also are very artistic. Movies and they call the soft power. Movies and drama and all of that, like really, really powerful. So also, making this type of collaboration between international organizations and cinema world to create, some and government also can play a part in that, like short movies that can, change the awareness of the community by having small, inspiring stories where like a big change happens. This used to happen in the old era when like there was a transition in the society between people who have assets and the working was not normalized, and making this shift like everybody has to work, even the rich ones. Movies played a great role in this transition, so we need also to learn from that and make it as a tool to help us in the upcoming era for having ecotourism at scale.
Thank you I think with this, you've dissolved every single doubt. You've I think this is the icing on the cake. Yes, thank you so much. I'm speechless. This is absolutely mind-blowing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So it means we have to engage these communities. We have to awareness and also through movies and other communication tools, language that they will understand to manage this transition. It's a mindset, it's a mix that they have received. And so we have to manage this transition for us to be on the same page and open it up for cross-border and try never to make money. Government make money, the people make money, entrepreneurs. All right, thank you very much. I think with this, we have come to the end of the second section. Please, do you have any question for Angie? She's still very much online now. Could you please drop it on the chat if you have any question for her? All right, there's no question. Okay, so I think with this, we will wrap up the second panel discussion on cross-country ecotourism trade impact, opportunities, prosperity, and insightful roadmaps on how we can overcome possible challenges that we could have on the way. Thank you very much. And then you said a whole lot during your introduction. I think, yes, everyone will coming back to that. So yes, to take it off from there. So thank you so much. Thank you for making time for this webinar. All right, so we're moving to the third panel discussion. I think we're doing pretty nice today. And I think we're also doing very well with time, and I think we're doing pretty nice. So we're moving to the third panel discussion. And then in this third panel discussion, we're going to be looking at carbon smart agriculture. So the session, basically, we're going to be looking at innovative investments, mothers, community-led adaptation strategy, and how gender equity plays a central role in green value chain development. We're also going to be looking at farm carbon credits. How do we bring in inclusion, drive inclusion, to be part of it, looking at certification, the process, what it takes, and the opportunities and potential of farm carbon credits in Africa, especially under the AfCFTA. And yes, we have two panelists in this third session. We have two panelists. I have Prince, and then I have Dr. Renica. Yes, I have Prince Justin and also Dr. Dr. Renica. Hi, Prince.
Hello, thank you very much. I am Dr. Renuka here. Events, Prince Justin has recently gone through operation, and so he is not able to join. I think,
I'm
yes,
here.
okay, Chani, Christina, are you joining as Justin? Sorry.
Yes.
All right. So I'm sorry, he is here now, so please go ahead.
No, please, you can go ahead. Dr. Renica, please go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I will give him first chance and then I can go.
Okay. I see. Yes. Hello, Prince Justin.
Hello.
How are you today? Could you just introduce yourself and then a bit about what you do?
Good. Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, though it's a little bit faint. Can you move closer to your device or your microphone?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, you can go ahead.
Is it clear enough?
Yes, it's clearer now. Please go ahead.
All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, by way of introduction, I am Prince Ajinga Justin Tani. I am the founder of Union Farms of Africa, and I'm equally the roving ambassador to the states of the African diaspora. A part of that, I've also participated in a lot of startups. I'm a board member of the African Farmers Alliance of Cooperatives, which is another startup we are trying to put in place. And one of the biggest cap we are putting on now is we are trying to do a flagship program. We call it the 20 Million Farmers Initiative, which is the program we are currently doing with Dr. Inuka. And we seek to connect 20 million African farmers on one carbon market, because we are feeling that there is a gap in carbon trading, and if properly filled, this can actually help our farmers across Africa, because one of the challenges we have been having as farmers is that we don't have collateral to get monies from banks to expand our projects. But then another side of the coin is that nobody is connected to the carbon market, and that is where huge monies are lying. So we thought we could together tap into this so that we open up under AfCFTA the opportunities for farmers across Africa to, to do one carbon market, and we can start trading with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that brilliant introduction. Yes, Dr. Renuka, please take the floor for your introduction and then also what you do about your programs and your initiatives.
Thank you so much. I'm founder of Global Sustainable Futures Network, and I am doing this climate change capacity building programs around the world. I'm connected to 180 countries, and I have 8,000 coordinators around the world to help initiate these programs where we simply advocate, but also create awareness and implement projects, whether it is educational, research, or project implementation, so that is doing work on ground. Having all that experience, I came across Prince Justin. I met him in January, and we found that there was a huge gap of carbon credit market in Africa. And so we initiated this one flagship program, especially to implement sustainable practices in agriculture and provide these farmers with credit in a form of several different ways, especially about, natural resources, biodiversity, and also a revenue that can bring them through carbon credit market. So I will stop here. Thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you very much for this, for what you do and for the opportunity to learn about it, and of course the overview that you have presented to us on this. All right, so we want to move to, we just have 3 areas that we want to look at under the session. The first area we want to look at, we're looking at homegrown carbon credit framework. We're looking at carbon credit framework. Carbon credit framework that align with both trade policy and probably global ESG standard. So we're looking at homegrown carbon credit framework. How can Africa develop? Where do we go from here regarding a carbon credit framework in Africa that align with our trade policy, AfCFTA, for instance, and then of course that is also in line with global best practices?
Thank you. Thank you so much for that question. First of all, let us all agree that developing homegrown carbon credit framework in Africa is an absolute need. And we must align, continental trade policy, global ESG, and all other issues that are at national level and global level. And they provide us the framework to evaluate on that, and also to embed those frameworks that are strategically, inclusive and adaptive for Africa. And so we must also remember the realities of Africa, that people still manage land management practices are still indigenous. And we have, like Africa has natural capital such as forest, wetlands, mangroves, rangelands, and many other natural, resources. May it be mineral, may it be natural resources, and that is all so much, abundant resources that we should be proud of, and also to be managing it sustainably. And therefore, and the community at every level, wherever I see from or hear from Africa, they are either, connected to the farming in crops or whatever the farming industry may be, whole range of it, livestock or fishery and so on. But also they are equally associated with, mining farming. So we should be looking at, community-led matrices that could be easily incorporating, social and livelihood benefits, and not only just that carbon tons, like carbon dioxide tons, but we should be incorporating those social and economic and livelihood benefits within that framework. Secondly, the framework should also dovetail with continental and regional trade strategies that enable carbon to be traded commodity, meaning that, this African continental free trade area is being developed for commodities to be freely developed. And if we add those commodities, or value of that commodities is accounting for the carbon within that commodities, it will be totally a different scenario. And we would be able to, harmonize those things very easily with the already existing arrangement that African Continental Free Trade Area wants to develop. So it is very important that we work within those framework that has been developed, or whatever the priorities African Continental Free Trade Area has, but a value addition can be made from the carbon perspective. Also, these all adaptation and adaptation of these global ESG standards, local relevance, equity, they should be utmost priority for Africa. And we should be translating those, international standards that are being already applied to agriculture, forestry, and energy, and so on. But we must also mandate these carbon projects with gender equality, biodiversity impact, water use, energy use, and so on. So then only it becomes more locally focused. And I have seen the previous conversation, especially from the first panel, saying that yes, digitalization is of utmost important. It can bring, trust, traceability, transparency, accountancy, all that. However, we are challenged by, how to make it digital, because we don't have basic infrastructure in place, such as electricity, internet, and many others. And so we are working for those things, basic needs. If we are able to make the carbon as a value addition product within these frameworks, it will also increase or invite, investment, innovation, enterprise within this all SMEs or agri-crop industry, who would be working towards, generating and selling credit from that regenerative agriculture, biomass, afforestation, and so on. So such a program, must be built on a framework, must be built on strategic local partnership and leverage into technical partners and other agencies. So the role of local actors in, framing these homemade, homegrown carbon credit framework would be very, very important. And that should be, stimulated or be running at a very fast pace, so that we can come to a well-adopted framework. I will stop here and allow maybe Justine to add to these things. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think there's a whole lot that's been said from the fact that it is an absolutely need for Africa. Carbon credit framework is an absolute need for Africa. That's number one. We've established that fact in this panel discussion. And then number two, strategically inclusive and adaptive. It has to be strategically inclusive and adaptive, so it gets to the smallholders, farmers, not forgetting the realities of Africa that we talk about matrices, and also basic infrastructure, and also the need to make carbon credits, like, I don't know, like a commodity or something, okay? Beautiful. I think it is so insightful, and has actually unlocked a lot of areas that we need to look at. Prince Justin, you have anything to add to this before we move to the last one? Okay, maybe after this second and the last one, probably he'll be ready by then or something. Yes, I think this is taking us to the second and the last one. Here we're looking at the issue around voluntary compliance with carbon market, voluntary compliance. How do we incentivize smallholders, farmers to voluntarily comply with carbon credits market to become for their farm to be carbon certified, something like that. So how do we incentivize them? How do we ensure that smallholders farmers, okay, are open to voluntary compliance? And then number two is carbon credit revenue. Carbon credit revenue, because I know that if we're looking at the framework, it has to do with policy makers, government. We have to come in and then design a framework, okay, and then the revenue stream. How do we integrate it into trade agreement or into national framework? How does the government benefit from it as a revenue to them? And also, how do we ensure, like, how do we create a market between the government now and the smallholder farmer, the carbon credit market, where you have smallholders farmers are voluntarily complying to carbon credits certification requirements, compliance, and then government too, they are also able to make something out of it, or maybe public-private partnership. They are also able to generate revenue from that.
Thank you, Evans. Thank you. It is very important question, because when I speak about like forming a framework and all that, it's more technical and it does not motivate farmers to get into this. But of course, this provides several opportunities for farmers, and there are some risks as well. So let me get into the opportunities first. And when you talk about the revenue, it is certainly a new revenue stream for the farmers, and they can be part of this revenue stream very easily in a form of carbon credit payments when the returns come out of these carbon credit projects. It would offer, a supplementary income, also help them diversify household revenue and all that. Because mainly all these carbon credit that comes from the agriculture and the forestry and what we are talking about, the area that we are talking about, are nature-based carbon credits, and they are sold at a premium price. And therefore, these practices, they are already getting very, very, attention in the world and also accepted. Agroforestry, regenerative agriculture, methane reduction from the, this agriculture and so on are very, very sellable credits. And therefore, having climate smart practices and reducing it also, helps into reducing the vulnerability to droughts, floods, pests, and it will also increase long-term soil fertility, water retentions, and biodiversity preservation. So all these will be helpful, not only from the revenue perspective, but also from the saving perspectives and for the risk reduction perspective. So that would be very, if we explain them from these perspectives, I think farmers would be on board. So that is how I think we should be talking in the language that they would like, or in a way that they would be easily involved in this. Also, we must remember that the process of, carbon credit project would increase access to the resources such as training, tools, and technical support, that is soil testing, monitoring, and all that will come, and that will foster cooperatives or the farmer groups, into capacity building, and they will increase collective bargaining power. So international carbon finance and sustainability discussions would be involving their voice in climate negotiations. and it will influence all over the land use policies that we would make, and the decision makers would like to listen, will have to listen to them on that basis. Also, there are few risks, of course, as I mentioned, that there are risks in carbon credit projects because they are quite expensive and complex. It should involve, baseline measurements, monitoring, reporting, and verification, and then also having certification, third-party accreditation, and so on. And therefore, sometimes it happens that, if farmers are unclear about their land rights, there could be a dispute of carbon ownership. But at the same time, if and also these projects are very long term, they are from like 10 to 30 years, and therefore we need to be very involved in that whole management of the carbon credit project, and we cannot change the land use during that project time. And so it's bit of that limitation that we need to consider. However, this volatile can be changed into immense opportunity if we have collective actions, such as already, which I mentioned, building cooperatives, having technical capacity, having basic facilities to allow digitalization and participation, deployment of mobile and satellite technologies. All that can lower the cost and increase transparency and make this possible. And finally, you mentioned about the revenue streams. These revenue streams would be incorporated into the trade agreement of the cooperatives, and that could be the part of, this AfDB and all EU trade details and so on. And it can, what could happen that we can develop carbon-linked trade finance and investment products, which would, invite micro investment, but also it will assess all the credit worthiness of that carbon and be able to award credit to the people who actually are involved in the project. So I will stop here. There are immense opportunity of such discussions going forward, and also bringing people together. Finally, I would like to just mention our 20 million farmer initiative, which is Farm Carbon Africa, where we are inviting these 20 million farmers to join us. And first step that we will be doing is onboarding them on a digital commodity exchange platform. It is all underway. We have already got 3 million farmers registering with us, and it will soon show, and it has already started showing the hype of the people's interest into digital platform. These digital platforms will give us the data, will increase transparency and traceability of what we are doing, and especially it will also offer us some very, more reliable market trends, which policymakers would be really interested. And this is all again, these all trade, high-level trade corporations are interested in knowing such data. It will also give us, clusters of where these potential carbon credit projects lie, and we will be able to work on that. And soon, within a year, we will be able to provide the revenue stream that farmers are looking from the carbon credit projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I think we have a hand up. Maybe we could take one of the questions.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, Lydia. Yeah, please go ahead.
All right. Thank you for the presentation. This is Lydia from Zambia. I coordinate a network for civil society, the Zambia Climate Change Network. So, Doc, very insightful presentation you've made. And my question on the first part is around the homegrown frameworks, whether we have examples of maybe countries that have done those homegrown frameworks around the carbon credit market. I think it would be good to learn from there. And my second question on the second part of your presentation, as you mentioned, in terms of the opportunities and the risks, and then because currently we are assessing some of the carbon market projects around the country, and one of the issues that we've come across is around the cost benefit in terms of communities themselves, the farmers themselves, not being involved in the whole process, and also issue of transparency when it comes to revenue. They do not know how that is done, and also they don't have access to the contracts that are made. And as you mentioned, these are long-term contracts, like 30 years. And so looking at that gap in terms of farmers' capacity to engage in these negotiations, and I think that is where I want to hear more in terms of how do you support this, because it's quite a huge gap in terms of the communities really benefiting what is intended for them to benefit from the revenues. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lindia. Both questions are so important. Homegrown framework, especially like we have seen in few countries, like first of all, Singapore has made its own carbon credit framework, and they are implementing it. Of course, especially at a country level or continental level, country level, there are few examples going on. But we haven't seen a very strong presence, because voluntary markets are working so well, in a sense of, like it is easy to sell your credits immediately to international market and so on, international buyer and so on, because certainly it is the carbon transactions are from between developed countries and developing countries generally, or in the countries where there is high, or the corporates that have very high energy intensive processes, to corporate or country where there is nature-based solutions, right? So it is hard to have that. But at a continental level, because Africa is having so many countries in it, so it can work on its own as a global space. And so I am talking not at a country level, but at a continental level. Certainly, Africa has a potential to make homegrown, framework in a way that it has pockets of energy intensive products, but at also same time, it has pockets of natural resources where this exchange can happen, and symbiosis of these corporates can be very easily possible if free trade carbon has such a framework and policy to support, right? So that I believe it is highly possible in Africa because of its strategic level, in a sense of strategic configuration, geopolitical configuration. Okay. Whereas, in EU, it's a bit difficult compared to Africa, because it has mostly energy intensive, it is high in carbon emission and so on. They are also trying to deal with the same thing, and EU green policy is one of that. However, they source a lot of supplies from outside EU, and therefore Africa is now, like for example, cocoa and coffee, Africa is immediately impacted due to those things. And therefore we must, at Africa level, we must think of how we would continue our businesses and be sustainable, so that we can keep exporting, but also improving our own landscape of production and consumption in a way that it serves our own community. So I will stop for that for the first question. Secondly, you mentioned about, yes, in the carbon credit projects, generally, traditionally, the ground level people who are involved in it do not get understanding or do not get a proper revenue back, or maybe there is no transparency and traceability. And that's why we have taken a very different mode here. We have started with traceability and transparency first, and then go to the carbon credit projects. So that's why we are highly advocating this, digitalization. That is, whoever comes to us must be trading on a digital commodity exchange platform, so that it will increase, because when they have to digitally trade, they have to have banking system, invoicing system, delivery system, warehousing system, all that comes into play. And that increases traceability and transparency. And I would be glad to mention here, one of your Zambia partner, Zambian Commodity Exchange platform, that is Zamak, is our partner. And we are establishing that through them. So, and I know Zambian government is also very keen on having this digital platform. Also, I know about many programs going on in Zambia. I think I must applaud Zambia here, because they have taken several initiatives to move this carbon credit market or this landscape in a way that I would say it is one of the leading country. And so that is where. So for our program, I believe we are increasing transparency and traceability first. Each and every farmer will be is recorded with us. And therefore, whenever we form, we have not gone to the stage where we have registered a carbon credit project yet. But when we do, each and every one would be the part of that carbon credit project. And we have set up the design stage from now, and we have involved farmers from now. So they are the basic people who are actually volunteering and developing and co-creating these carbon credit projects. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, Lydia, I'm sure you're good now. You're fine. Has all your questions been answered?
Yes, and I think I'll get in touch with her for more. Yeah, thank you.
All right, good to know. Collaboration networking has already kicked off. All right, thank you so much. All right, I think if there is no any other question for Dr. Renica, then it means we're good to...
Sorry, please, I have a question for her.
Okay, please, sir.
So, before I jump out, Dr. Renica, thank you very much for that insight on carbon credits and sharing different examples with us. The question is, that's always run to my mind, is that what exactly, because when you mention farmers keeping credit of that. So what exactly is that carbon credit? I say this in reference to your intervention, saying they can sell international markets, countries can sell. Is it like a gas? Is it a gas that will be stored somewhere and someone will come and move it and go and sell international markets? Or and what is the rate now? Because I keep on hearing this carbon credit. There is a study we're doing when we did an end-line evaluation for USAID, French FDA, on supporting greening of the share industry. And one of the questions we asked in doing that end-line survey is that with greening the sector, and they said there's a carbon credit that comes out of it. I said, what exactly is that carbon? How do you calculate it? By cubic meter, by centimeter, by liters? What exactly is this carbon? Then you're telling a farmer that does not even have an internet that there is something that he has to sell. Because in Africa, I'm from Nigeria, we have a lot of forests. They say, oh, this is money. What exactly is it? What is the value? I'm saying this so that you break it down for us as laymen and for us to understand, because we keep on hearing this word at high level, technical words. But the reality is this: there's nothing being done. You talk about policies. What is the policy supposed to solve? When the policy makers don't understand what is it? Let me rephrase my question.
Don't worry, I understood your question.
You understood my question, right?
Yes, I understood your question. Don't worry to rephrase.
Give us in simple terms and tell me if you know. Hello, ma'am.
Hello, sir. Do not repeat your question. I understood your question. Thank you very much.
Good.
Thank you very much. And, this is so important question. And therefore, actually, what are these national policies, regional policies, global policies? What is climate change? What is carbon emissions? How it is measured? What is carbon literacy? I actually did last year Global South summits around the world every month online to educate people just about this, because the national and global policymakers speak in a way that is not easily engaging the community. The words and the terminology are so different than what we have on the ground level. And the questions that you have asked are always in everyone's mind. So let me explain you in a simple way that, say, for example, you have a pot in your house, okay? And you deposit, all the members of your house deposit some money in it. You deposit 10, other deposit 50, other deposit 60, and so on. When you need, you take out the money from that and you use it, okay? But you do not, then you have to have that sharing, that who shared how much they shared, right? Like then only it will be a fair sharing. Like when you distribute again that money, then you have to say, okay, I deposited 50, therefore I should get 50 back. And then that should be sharing, okay? However, that also increases inequality. Now, what has happened in the world, that the whole world atmosphere has certain level of carbon emissions, and that is counted in tons. So for carbon emission, the unit is ton, okay? So that is overall counted, that this much should be the carbon emissions. Now, in last 150 years or after industrialization, we have used up so much energy that we have exposed carbon emissions into the atmosphere in a way that it increased our whole global warming. It increases the temperature. I won't go into too much science, but it has increased the temperature, and we want to keep that temperature as low as possible. And therefore, as the carbon emissions play a very important role, there are other six gases also, but we can't as a standard carbon emission. And so we need to keep its ratio or its level as low as possible. And we should not allow 1 degree or 1.5 degree or 2 degree increase in our global warming. Okay, so that is all scientific. Now, when you say, and carbon, you know, the photosynthesis process, which is taught in all classes in a very primary classes of our schooling, that trees absorb carbon dioxide and emit oxygen. And that is the main regulatory process in our environment, that trees are the sinks of carbon emission. They absorb carbon emission. And therefore, forest, as you mentioned, forest is the resource that we want more and more so that it can absorb the carbon emission from the atmosphere. Okay. Now, when what has happened through the industrialization process, that the developed countries, for example, like the countries USA, UK, and many other EU countries, and so on, they have emitted a lot of carbon emissions due to their industrialization process and the mankind. Like they have, say, for example, cars, use of cars, use of other appliances. So wherever we use fossil fuel and we emit, and when it is used as an energy source, fossil fuel as an energy source, we emit carbon emissions, and this has increased the carbon emissions from the developed countries so much. And there is a lot of statistics around it showing that, say, for example, US emits 5 times or 10 times. Dubai is now emitting a lot of emissions due to its development process and so on. However, we must remember that energy, use of energy is very important for any development process, such as, Africa, because it doesn't have electrification, it doesn't have lights in the houses, the development process has stalled or reduced because they don't have enough energy to light up their homes, to run their, hospital activities, or to run their schools or run their businesses and so on. So now, if we continue, like in Africa, if we continue doing the same, then we will also end up emitting a lot of carbon emissions, like using fossil fuels. And therefore, we need to use renewable energy. Renewable energy does not have a lot of emissions through the process. Again, I won't go into a lot of process, but that is what it is. And therefore, we are using, renewable energy such as solar energy, water energy, and so on, wind energy in the process of generating energy and to give it to the local people. So these are few things. Now, when you say how the carbon credit, another thing is that soil can absorb carbon, and the quality of the soil tells us the measurement of carbon in it. And the quality of the soil can be increased by tree planting. When we do cropping, agriculture, and so on, the quality of soil gets degraded because that soil gives the nutrients to the crops. Now, this soil needs to regenerate and acquire those ingredients back. Then that type of farming is called regenerative farming. If we use less mechanized vehicles on it, if we grow trees on it, and so on, then or we rotate the crops appropriately, then that keeps the soil quality a lot more healthier or more ingredient or richer in carbon, then that soil can be used as a carbon sink. Therefore we are saying, and therefore we are focusing on agriculture and forestry. Again, agriculture is one of the high emitting carbon industry, and therefore we want to lower the carbon emissions from agriculture. So now, because Africa, 80% of people are directly or indirectly engaged in agriculture, we need to focus on agriculture industry first. It also needs food security. It also needs revenue from the food and industry. And all that helps us to understand that Africa agriculture sector is highly interesting in developing carbon credits, and it can be done because people know what to do, because you already have several things in place. It is all about managing it better, recording it better. And if that is done, you will be easily getting carbon credits. Now, what is carbon credit? When I say in 1 year, my soil quality was such that it can hold, say, 8 tons of carbon, and if the next year I have increased its capacity to hold 10 tons of carbon, meaning that I have done 2 carbon credits, easy. That is the way you can understand. It is just simple accounting, but lot of process goes into that. But that is simple accounting, or a simple term. If you increase the sink, carbon sink, through trees or the soil absorption, or in other way by increasing biodiversity and so on, then you are having that credit, and therefore you should be rewarded in the credit. Now, how you can get that money out of that credit? The developing countries are still continuing their business. They are also reducing their carbon emissions. However, to go to the net zero, they will require to offset their carbon. And therefore, they are paying you to maintain or to help you sink the carbon. And so the overall carbon emissions in the world remain down. So I will stop here. I hope I have been able to explain few of the concepts that you have asked. Thank you.
Wow, this is amazing. Hello, sir.
I suppose this is like I give it to you, ma'am. I give it to you, ma'am. You have really detailed this in a way where I'm trying to even figure out how do we even go about this in Africa. I believe I have to commend you for what you are doing. You have to continue doing it because this is the future. And when we talk about the policy part of it, is in a dimension that will set the ball rolling. And when the policymakers ever understand this, then they will not set the ball rolling, because when you talk about the planting of tree and the soil absorption, so it's a deliberate policy that will encourage farmers to get into it. And it is not a one-year policy. It has to have maybe a 50 years plan where you start gathering this data with the technology that will be deployed, and also build technical expertise of people and as well as the farmers, translating these terms into the local language so they understand. So it becomes like an investment for them into the future. Just like I'm a trade person, so I speak trade. When I started talking about trade, people felt it's just import and export. I say it's beyond import and export. There's a value chain, and it's not even about theory, it's the application of this theory. So thank goodness for AfCFTA that has brought so many people into the fold now. People start talking about, but we need to do more. Thank you very much, ma'am, for this elaborate explanation. This is detailed enough for me to also go in and start digging in and to see how we can contextualize it in our reality as Africans. So that means that if I don't have power, electricity, it should be count for me to be able to get money from somewhere. But are we consciously working towards it? So it's like turning around our negativity into something positive while building on the stuff. We have sun. It's just started raining. I'm also a farmer, so I depend more of rainwater to grow my crops. This year I planted about 3 times because it didn't rain on time, and it's due to climate changing. Even when we use technology to predict when it will start raining, it didn't rain. But so we miscalculated it. So these are the issues. So now in the farm, we have some renewable energy system that we put in place, from the dawns to generating power to manure and rest of these are the things. Thank you very much, Ma, for this. I think I would ask the organizers to do more next time to get more people into the room, because this is a wealth of knowledge you've shared. Thank you very much, ma'am. And thank you very much, Evan. You're doing very well so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Sand. You are talking really very intelligent points you have made, like especially from the policymaker that they should have 50-year policy. And definitely there are things like that in Agenda 2063 of Africa. It is also at African level. But the main problem, as I mentioned, policymakers and these are having their own, circles of speaking, and the way they should be communicating with the people is that. So that's a communication, gap. And what you are doing at a farm level, that is exactly what we want. When you don't have energy, now there is an opportunity to implement renewable energy and be a carbon credit project. Through this, our carbon credit project, we are inviting these farmers, but remember, these farmers have households, and therefore we are, and the farms as well. So we are investing into, rain harvesting, biochar, renewable energy, that is solar electrification, then clean stove, and many, many other projects that can be done through this big initiative. So it is not an initiative, it is total systems transformation, and you can be part of that. We are inviting every country to be part of us, and it is all voluntary at the moment. But when we come to the carbon credit, we have a structure in place that can help farmers get revenue back if they have invested in all this. If you start thinking, you get benefits from the day one. You start savings actually on your own resources, and then you get returns later on. So I will stop here. Thank you very much for all this discussion. And Lydia, I would like to tell you that Zambia is doing very well. I just few days ago, I heard your bank of governor of your bank talking about all the fiscal policies. And he was explaining each and everything that we need to know. And I think people should communicate in that way. He is really a good example where you can bring the policies. Like he was also explaining what is inflation, what you mean by inflation, how they measure inflation, and in what terms they are in comparison to other countries, and how they are trying to decrease inflation. And even a very less percentage of inflation is decreasing. He was trying to explain how they did it, how they calculated, and all that. So these are the things that each and every citizen would like to know and be part of it, so they can also understand how to contribute. And what I am seeing here in the world, that many, many local actions are going on, just as Sand also explained, but they have not been recognized. And we are bringing this program to be recognized. So that is where I will stop. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And also thank you for making this open. Yes, Mr. Sand, yeah, what we're thinking about is how to approach the AfCFTA Secretariat. We can do this at both the continental and also at the country level. So we're looking at the possibility of meeting in Togo, Lomé, by October during the AfCFTA business forum, where it can serve as a one-stop shop to engage with our stakeholders, and also, of course, the possibility of taking it down to the Nigerian authorities as well, so that we can start developing a framework for this. Thank God we have a very listening Minister of Industry, Trade, and Investment. So, yeah, we're going to take the conversation further after now to see how we can implement this, accelerate this in Africa, involving the Secretariat. Yes, thank you very much. That's Dr. Renuka, and I think her contact is on the chat box on the platform regarding, I just spoke about the carbon credits initiative programs and issues, contemporary issues around it. All right, yes, our time is fast spent, but we want to see how we'll be able to manage our time. I want to, the fourth panelist, before Mr. Ken will wrap up. The first panelist is Mr. Sand Uba. Hello, sir. Would like to meet you. Could you please tell us about yourself and then what you do, sir?
Thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this very important gathering. My name is Sanu Bakalo, as you rightly mentioned. I work within the trade ecosystem. So I'm the Executive Director of African International Trade and Commerce Research, which is a consultancy firm. Over 10 years now, the organization has been in existence. I'm also the founder of International Trade and Research Center, which is a think tank. These two organizations were set up based on the gaps and the opportunity to improve the ecosystem in Africa. If I was in the US, I don't need to duplicate the organization. I just have to have one as a think tank, have one as a consulting firm, because that is so. Because with the think tank, you can do a lot of things pro bono and engage in intellectual works, not really seeking for profit. But with consultancy, he wants to make some profit. So that fits into that. Over 15 years experience working in this area. Actually started my career in the UK. I've been working in trade on most part of my life. More fact, when I completed secondary school and I got my first job was clearing and forwarding agent. So clearing and forwarding agent was about clearing goods at the ports. I rose quickly because of my passion to become a manager of the organization, and I started handling ports. So I've been working in this, if cumulatively, I think it might be over 20 years, that have been working in trade-related areas. Currently, we're also pushing up something we felt is very key to the sustainable development of international trade in Africa, which is intellectual property. Intellectual property is an enabler of trade. And that is why, when I say enabler of trade, I mean enabler of sustainable trade. And that is why Africa, I just listened to a podcast where someone was saying, globally, and I will say this because I'm going to dovetail into what they asked me to speak about. Globally, jurisdictions has been designated to supply the global value chain at certain level. China and Asia is now considered as the industrial powerhouse of the world, manufacturing powerhouse of the world. The global North and Europe are considered as the consumers of the manufactured value-added products or services. Africa has been considered as a supplier of that raw materials that is not the Asian need, and manufacture it and gives it. So if you look at the value chain, Africa is below the ladder, and that's why when we talk about some of these global smart agriculture, the policy makers make it look as if it's something out of the blue. You can't, they make it difficult. Even the global system makes it look very technical. And that's why when we talk about intellectual property gives you the ability to add value to something and benefit from it in the long run, because most average, they give you 10 years to benefit from it. So you have consistency. So this is an area in Africa that is then fragmented. And we say, no, it can't be fragmented. So let's come together. So I'm working on intellectual property component of things, which is called the All African IP Summit that we would now annually to bring stakeholders together. And this year we'll be happening in Dakar to discuss issue of IP and how we change this narrative of what has been allocated to Africa to be just the producer of raw materials. We say, no, it can't continue. We also want to produce and add value to what we produce and benefit and be wealthy from it. We can't remain poor. It's no more. So, in summary, this is what I do on a day-to-day basis. So good to be here. Looking forward to engaging and speaking to more about the topic that has been given to me to speak on. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, and also for the important work that you do. Absolutely, regarding intellectual property, thank you for the overview that you provided. Of course, I think that should even serve as an incentive of wanting to add value to anything. Why will I want to add value to anything when I know that if I eventually succeed, I'm not even going to benefit from it? I'm not protected. So I think with these, we are incentivized, we are motivated to want to add value to whatever we do, knowing that we know that we're protected. We will also be part of the first beneficiary of whatever with the dust. Thank you so much for that. This is going to be a very brief section because we've taken a bit of a time, and then so we want to look at digital trade preparedness and then capacity building. Digital trade preparedness and capacity building. I think sometimes you were involved in that project in Nigeria regarding digital trade preparedness as part of efforts to implementing the digital trade protocol, the AfCFTA digital protocol. And then regarding capacity building so regarding that project, how is it still ongoing? How are we scaling it? How are we bringing many more into the program, knowing very well that Nigeria has earmarked digital trade as one of our key priority area in our AfCFTA market strategy? Yes, please.
Yes, thank you very much. So Nigeria has been apportioned or appointed as a digital trade champion. This is thank goodness to the work that we have done in collaboration with ODI, FCDO, Office of the Vice President, Nigerian Office for Trade Negotiation, AfCFTA negotiation, the Nigerian Office for AfCFTA coordination. because before the Digital Trade Protocol was passed, AfCFTA Digital Trade Protocol, Nigeria, we started working on advancing digital trade, because digital trade is not something tangible, and it's a very complicated thing as well. I recall in 2015, we did a mapping of e-commerce platform under GIZ in Nigeria, and we struggled to identify some organizations that are solely e-commerce, from the logistics that moves it to the e-commerce platform themselves. Jumia, we just had the big four, Jumia, Konga then, and we're able to still successfully bring things together, because these are intangible products or services that is offered that sometimes is cross-cutting. For example, a farmer that produces want to upload his or her produce online and wants to sell it. You have a logistic firm that needs to pick it up to go and deliver, and you have it because they're not going to give you cash, they will pay through online. So you have a digital, a fintech that should process the money to go into your bank, and you have a gateway. The person is filling his car somewhere, maybe not in your country, across the border, and you know, so it is a web that you need to really understand it. So what we did then was to, after the GIZ 2015, we didn't proceed with that. Then when FCDO came under ODI Global, we started working on advancing it before the AfCFTA protocol was passed. So what that exposed us to, one, is that there is a knowledge gap. There is a disjointed policy framework. So what I mean is policy framework. We realize that there might be an institution of government that put out a policy to make it easier for organizations to be able to trade across border on digital platform. And a different government institution will put in a policy in place to counter that and say, for example, in payments system, the CBN might put out a policy today, and so you cannot transfer any, typically as of today, as I speak now, you cannot transfer payment, you can't make payment outside Nigeria in dollar term without you paying to your nose. So the minimum you pay is $40 to make a payment, and you have to go into the bank to process that. So if you want to use your card, some card will not work. If you want to use your card to even buy things within Nigeria, it has to be limited. So if you want to transfer, say, for example, $70, you will spend $40 to make that transfer. So you see, policy disjointed because of lack of understanding. So what we then did was to see that there should be a harmonization of policies. So neither CBN, Custom, NAFDAC, SON, all government agencies, because I say digital trade is cross-cut, they must come together to decide and agree on this. This is stakeholder dialogue, and the private sector should come in, the chambers of commerce, the manufacturer association, the fintech, the banks have to come to discuss this. But that is still a big issue, because there is this thing called territorial protection. For some reason, government establishment, they have this territory they protect. You can't cross my line. So it is a confusion, but it's a work in progress. I'm happy that the current Minister of Industry is really working, and for example, she has taken the issue of digital trade at the front burner. So some of the report that we have produced, they are really working on it to see that it's implemented in a way whereby it's at the national level, first of all, that it's easy to trade easily in terms of logistics. So you have a lot of logistic firms that move things. You have a lot of fintech that are coming up now to from Paystack to MoneyPoint to OPay, helping Piggyvest, helping to be able to see that it's easy to pay online, and the logistics to move these goods are there. And also different platforms are also coming up where you can enlist for your services. One of the challenges we have, the industry have now, is the taxing component of things. Because as I said, you may want to make things easy. The inland revenue just starts taxing that, and every local government also have their tax. So, but it's work in progress. We're happy that what the AfCFTA digital trade protocol is coming to do now is to also protect cross-border data transfer, because you cannot block data from transferring. For example, you want to sell something to a seller or a buyer in Ghana without them transferring their data to you. So Africa must open up that space, just like, because if we don't open it, it becomes more expensive for us to trade more, especially on that digital trade. But it's still work in progress. There's still a lot of awareness to be created, capacity building, and that is what we are working on. And if you then want to then add the mix of the climate tech part of it, you're taking it a different level. When we say the little ones people have not understood, and you're taking it to a different level of more technical things. So you know you're calling for trouble. But we cannot be left outside. We cannot be left to always follow the bandwagon at some point. We also have to put our foot out there. And that's why some of this meeting, even while you might look at it that the number of people participating is small, but that is how it starts. I've been working in policy space for a long time. Most time, what this policy document you see is the handwork of 3 people, but it then affects millions of people. But if those 3 people are conscious about the positive good for all, they will do a good job. And when they do a good job, everyone will benefit, because our space is a boring space. I tell my colleagues in the office, it's a boring space. Just make it excited. Don't be disturbed about 5 people in the room doing it, but just ensure that the documentation of this is put out and you see it snowballing into helping turn things around. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you so much for all of this insight, and also the fact that, you know, the area of capacity building and all of that, so that's to make it inclusive, and even the work that you've been doing even before the protocol was passed, and of course, all of the support and everything you still do. Thank you so much. Please, we're sorry, we never intend to take a seat, not even by 1 minute. We wanted to keep the time. We wanted to respect your time. So please, this is what we can take for now regarding these. We hope in subsequent editions, subsequent webinars, we're going to be able to take a lot more. So please, at this point, let me invite the co-founder and CEO of ADNet, who happens to be the host of this webinar, for his remarks, and then before we wrap up from there. So Mr. Iken, please, over to you, sir.
Yeah, what can I say? It's been a very refreshing moment. And of course, we have all said a lot. What I could do is probably just to recap, and of course to re-emphasize social economic impact. Social economic impact is very, very important. And of course, I would want some kind of policy reforms in the AfCFTA on how this is being monitored. Definitely, we have several indicators, and this is going to be a kind of recommendations that the social growth in respect of trade, this is also an indicator. The trade cost, e-commerce adoption, what level are we? And digital infrastructures, we have seen several scenarios whereby digital connectivity is not widespread, and some parts of rural communities are being cut off. There's no visibility. And of course, we have impacts in respect of women, youths, SMEs. And of course, digital technology is a leverage in improving trade in Africa, trade integration in Africa. So of course, the digital infrastructures needs to really be in place. And of course, as a consequence of everyone using digital innovation, we have also talked about carbon credit and all that. It is being enabled by digital as well. And we need to reinforce our defense lines in respect of taking cybersecurity very seriously. We need capacity building in cybersecurity. We need cybersecurity in experts in different companies. And of course, adoption of emerging technologies, AI, and several others in enabling trade efficiency. So in a nutshell, I would like us to close here. I really appreciate all our contributions from carbon trading, from ecotourism. We could see that digital enablement is becoming the nucleus of intra-African trade. And of course, the AfCFTA, they are doing a lot, but we still need more transparency in respect of what is being achieved. What is the progress? What are the gaps? Is there a publishing spot in AfCFTA that the industry could follow in order to understand even the challenges in the AfCFTA? So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for the enlightenment today. It's been an eye-opening session. And of course, we're looking forward to the next version of this topic. And definitely, we'll be getting in touch with you. This session is being recorded, and definitely you're going to have the recorded version of our discussions today. Thank you so much. And thank you for your time. And of course, let's keep in touch. Thank you so much. I hand over now to Evans for closing. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. On behalf of ADNX and Trade for Development Africa, we want to appreciate everyone for honoring us with your presence and also for being part of these. We look forward to collaborating. Some of the insights, some of the recommendations that we have discussed here today. So we're going to be looking forward to how we can develop an implementation roadmap around them, how we can strengthen our collaboration to ensure we're able to deliver sustainable impact regarding this thematic area that we have discussed. So thank you so much. We appreciate you for coming. We'll definitely get in touch, not only with the recording, but subsequent webinars and then upcoming projects that we're going to be having in around Africa. So with this, I say thank you very much. Thank you for coming, and please do enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye, everyone.